Hi, this is Light Novel Sound, and welcome to Astral Pet Store. Get ready to embark on an intergalactic journey where we bring you unique stories, fascinating creatures, and otherworldly adventures. If you're a fan of fantasy, sci-fi, and unforgettable characters, you've come to the right place. On this channel, we dive into the exciting world of Astral Pet Store, where extraordinary pets with magical powers are sold in a far-out space market. Join our main character as they navigate the challenges of running a pet shop in the stars while discovering hidden secrets and forming strong bonds with their cosmic companions. A big thank you to the author Ancient She for bringing this amazing story to life, and be sure to check out the full novel at lightnovelworld.co to enjoy the entire adventure. If you enjoy adventures, quirky creatures, and unexpected twists, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new chapter of this stellar story. Chapter 301, Titled Warrior vs. Titled Warrior. Bang! The Inferno Dragon landed on its feet. Because of its sheer weight, the ground caved in a bit as the Inferno Dragon came out. The Inferno Dragon fire even twisted the air with its burning temperature. A killing intent that was stronger than ever filled its freezing dragon eyes. The Inferno Dragon looked around as if everything was beneath it. In front of the Inferno Dragon stood over 20 honorable advanced battle pet warriors as well as over 20 valuable pets with advanced bloodlines. Of all the pets, the weakest were at the 7th rank and 6 to 7 of the pets were at the 8th rank. 2 were at the 9th rank and they had both reached adulthood. The pets were of various sizes. The big ones were like tall buildings and even the small ones were as strong as tanks. This would be a terrifying sight for anyone seeing those pets together. However, that was not the case for the Inferno Dragon. It glanced over the crowd and its power overwhelmed all the other beings. It was as if the Inferno Dragon believed nothing in the world could compete against it. As they heard the Inferno Dragon's roar, both the pets that were ready to charge and their masters were terrified. This was the Inferno Dragon. Of the entire Longjiang base city, they only knew one place that had this dragon. That pet store. Right, that pet store. All of them had heard about the store, but to see the owner pay a visit to the Jew family and with such hostile intentions was completely out of their expectations. Go away! Su Ping repeated his order. Roar! Roar! As if to respond to their master's killing intent, both the purple python and the Inferno Dragon roared at the same time. The two beasts' howls and roars were loud enough to wake up the dead and their noises did affect the surrounding turf. They mixed their strong energy in their roars and they directed their anger at the many soldiers of the Jew army. The soldiers and their pets had to lower their heads as this force assaulted them. Some battle pet warriors had set up shields to fend off the sonic boom effect, as well as the rubble and blades of grass that were flying their way. The soldiers of the Jew army could finally breathe once the roaring ended. They looked at each other in speechless despair. They could find the same expression of disbelief in each other's eyes. This Inferno Dragon seemed to have just reached adulthood. However, its power made them think that they were facing a 9th rank dragon. That was horrifying. That python was not a pet to belittle, either. It seemed to be a purple python that they were all familiar with, but what kind of purple python would grow so large and powerful? After a short moment of silence, 2 team leaders took a step forward. They were both master battle pet warriors and had reached the 8th rank. Their pets had matured and were both at the 9th rank. They could stand a chance to win even against titled battle pet warriors. Who are you? Identify yourself. You should stay out of things that don't concern you. Why would you come and invade the Jew family premises? One of the team leaders questioned Su Ping, biting his teeth in wrath. He was ashamed and unwilling to admit that the intimidating Jew army had just been overpowered by one person and 2 of his pets. You do not deserve to know my name. Su Ping kept his hands crossed behind his back. It is the Jew family who offended me first. I'm here to look for someone. Make way! The team leaders bellowed in surprise and anger. Who are you here to see? Tell us a name so that we can report it for you. I do not know his name, but I know what he looks like. That is why I am requesting to meet your family head and ask him to let me see your family records, Su Ping answered. The family records. Upon hearing this reply, that team leader became hopping mad. The record of the family tree was of essential importance to a family and should be kept confidential. That record was not something to be messed up with. How could an outsider ask to see their family's records? Hardly had Su Ping's voice faded away when the other soldiers of the Jew army came back to their senses from their initial shock. Every one of them felt an uncontrollable rage. "How dare you!" All of a sudden, a loud shout was heard right above them. Then, a whooshing sound followed. It was like the launch of an intercontinental missile. That person moved across the void and instantly arrived in front of Su Ping. When he stopped, the wind around him was still blowing and stirring up his robes. His hair also danced due to the billowing currents. This was a man of a towering presence. It was a strong-built middle-aged man. However, with the short and primitive robe he was wearing, he seemed to be detached from modern society. He was bronzed and quite muscular. With bushy eyebrows and large eyes, he had a look that would make others revere him without having to demonstrate his strength. His hair was long and casually combed into a bun. He was standing in the air. This was a titled battle pet warrior. The soldiers of the Jew army breathed in relief when this man arrived. The team leaders who had stepped forward had rejoined their team members. The two of them kept on staring at Su Ping, like wolves gazing at their game. Once Su Ping was defeated, they would pounce on him and tear him apart, and smash every piece of his bones. "Listen, you broke into our residence and made the bold request of looking at our family tree records. You have violated the dignity of the entire Jew family. You should know that not even death can help to atone for this offense." The capable and vigorous middle-aged fixed Su Ping with a furious glare. Profound energy was flowing around him. It was as if he was one with the surrounding environment, and with a wave of his hand, he could leverage the power of heaven and earth. Su Ping raised his head and looked into the man's eyes. "The Jew family has set me up, trying to defame me. Let me see the person I'm here to see and I will leave. If you waste another second, I won't mind killing a few more people." "Ha, ha, ha. How full of yourself you are." The middle-aged burst into laughter out of extreme rage. This was the Jew family residence. He had never seen anyone with the courage to go there and claim to kill people. "Go to hell." All of a sudden, the middle-aged man lifted his hand. Violently surging energy converged above Su Ping's head. The image of a huge hand came out from nowhere and it was pressing down on Su Ping. "You are courting death." Coldness rose in Su Ping's eyes. With the help of astral telekinesis, he could sense the disturbance in the energy around him. But for the other battle pet warriors under the 9th rank, they wouldn't notice anything was happening, even if the energy hand were going after them. Since that middle-aged man was going for the kill, Su Ping decided not to suppress his killing intent either. He had survived oceans of blood and dead bodies. He had stepped over corpses of beasts and monsters. This man in front of him posed no threat. Roar! Standing in front of Su Ping, the Inferno Dragon had received his order. The Inferno Dragon opened up its eyes. Filled with wrath and killing intent, the Inferno Dragon took a step forward. The ground caved in by meters. The Inferno Dragon raised its head, breathed out a ball of Inferno Dragon fire that clashed against the intangible hand of energy. Bang! The two masses of energy caused a blast in the sky. Even the sky and the earth were trembling. Wisps of residue energy were spread across the entire space. That strong middle-aged was a bit surprised. He never thought that the Inferno Dragon that seemed to have just reached adulthood could fend off this strike to protect the young man. The middle-aged man had doubts about the actual age of this trespasser. A person who was bold enough to break into the Jew family all alone most likely had the strength of a titled battle pet warrior. Even so, there were gaps between different titled battle pet warriors. Besides, the middle-aged man was not the only titled battle pet warrior in the Jew family. Rot in hell! The middle-aged opened up the void and summoned his pets. Two swirls appeared in the sky and from the swirls came out two huge beasts. One of them was his major pet and the other one was his secondary pet. But the two pets had equal strength and were both at the intermediate position of the 9th rank. Kill! As his pets came out, the middle-aged waved his hand forward as if he were instructing an army of a large number of cavalry and foot soldiers. Two gale streams swept across from his sides as the two behemoths charged toward Su Ping. Su Ping remained calm, still completely unafraid. He had seen countless beasts at the intermediate position of the 9th rank and killed many. Roar! On the ground, the Inferno Dragon roared abruptly. The two behemoths were dashing toward Su Ping, its master. The Inferno Dragon was furious. Blood streaks appeared in its eyes. The bloodthirsty nature that the Inferno Dragon had been suppressing rushed out from the depths of the Inferno Dragon's soul. The dragon's roar echoed across the entire Jew family residence. The ground under the Inferno Dragon's feet cracked. Within a 10-meter radius, every piece of earth caved in, unable to withstand the Inferno Dragon's massive force. At the same time, the Inferno Dragon jumped up into the sky. The flames that were burning furiously around the Inferno Dragon gradually came together into one mass of terrifying fire. Legendary skill, Inferno Fire. Roar! As the Inferno Dragon roared and jumped into the sky, from behind him, the automatically generated flames had turned into a sea of fire that went past the Inferno Dragon, whooshing toward the two beasts. That fire tainted half of the sky blood red. What kind of fire is that? That middle-aged man seemed to be appalled. Disbelief and shock were plastered on his face. From that fire, he had tasted a deterring force that he could hardly describe. He could smell blood, an evil spirit, and death. Even his eyes turned blood red because of the sea of fire. Chapter 302, Little Skeleton on the Move. Roar! The two 9th rank battle pets that were charging forward could sense the danger contained in the crimson sea of fire. Both pets began to growl in a towering rage. With their master behind them, they had no other choice but to forget about their own safety and rise to the challenge. One of the two 9th rank pets belonged to the Wind family, while the other was part of the Demon family, which was skilled at using dark elements. At the moment, both pets had unleashed their skills simultaneously. The wind was whistling. The violent hurricane swept through, turning into a substantial mountain in midair, with the tip facing downwards, running through the entire sea of fire, trying to scramble and disperse the flames that blotted the sky. As to the other battle pet of the Demon family, dark energy oozed out from all over its body like mist or silk threads. In midair, dark matter pellets came into being from both sides of its body, as if many miniature black holes were emerging out of thin air, and they could swallow light and energy alike. This was a 9th rank skill for pets of the Demon family, Darkness Annihilation. Darkness Annihilation was quite destructive. It was able to rip apart and turn to ashes anything it touched. Over a dozen dark energy pellets were discharged at the same time as the huge pet bellowed. They traveled across a curve, flying toward the sea of fire toward the young man and his two pets. As the dark energy pellets were dashing toward them, the hurricane had smashed into the sea of fire. The blazing temperatures suddenly rose again sharply, and the hurricane had easily penetrated the center of the sea of fire. In an instant, the sea of fire across the sky was being pulled and dragged by the hurricane, gradually turning into a flame tornado. The blood-red flame tornado reached high into the sky, hovering over the Jew's residence. As the tornado rotated, the surrounding temperature was getting higher and higher. From the flame tornado, a cluster of sparks was thrown out, scattering around like a rain of meteors. What a grand yet terrifying scene this was. Why is it still there? The strong middle-aged man could not believe this. The sea of fire that should have been easily dispersed resisted the hurricane strike. Roar! While he had yet to recover from his astonishment, he had heard another dragon's roar that was full of fury and violence coming from the ground. Then, he saw two wings of flames grow out from the back of the Inferno Dragon that was halfway through its jump. The Inferno Dragon charged toward his battle pet of the Demon family, leaving behind a crimson track in the air. Whoosh! The Inferno Dragon made a dash midair. Surprisingly, It had sped up and had reached the battle pet of the demon family within the split of a second. That was a 9th rank pet skill, Air Splitter. That was a skill that should have only been mastered by 9th rank pets of the Wind family. Accompanied by the dragon's extremely ferocious roar, the huge Inferno dragon instantly obscured the light in front of the demon pet. At that moment, with a body exuding terrifying demon flames, this pet was like a devil slowly rising from hell, casting a terrifying shadow of death. Roar! A close-range dragon roar, like a sonic boom, suddenly pierced through the surrounding air, paralyzing the battle pet of the demon family for a while. Claw of Destruction, a skill with divine enhancement. The Inferno dragon's flame-covered claws were suddenly covered with a golden glow, as the Inferno dragon slapped toward the battle pet of the demon family. Finally, the battle pet of the demon family had come back to its senses. A dark armor emerged and covered its body. That was its defensive skill. However, as soon as the armor came into being, the Inferno dragon had smashed it into pieces. The hard shell formed by the dark energy was at the moment floating around in pieces like catkins. Astounded, the battle pet of the demon family widened its eyes. Bang! The next moment, its body quivered in midair as if hit by a meteorite. With unstoppable and irreversible momentum, the pet slammed into the ground like a rocket. Since it was falling diagonally, its body slammed directly into a nearby old building which had been designed by a master architect. Alas, the building had suddenly collapsed. The ground under the building was even more damaged. Dust filled up the air. As the battle pet of the demon family fell to its doom, the dark energy pellets had reached Su Ping as well. He remained standing on the head of the purple python, unaffected by the incoming strike. The purple python under his feet suddenly let out a roar, showing the ferocious fangs in its mouth. The scales on its head suddenly stood up in layers, squirming, covering Su Ping's head like a parasol. In the meantime, some dark purple energy began to surge from amongst its purple and blue scales. Bang, bang, bang. More than a dozen dark annihilation energy pellets poured down like missiles onto the purple python. The energy burst and turned into countless dark air currents, covering the huge body of the purple python like a mass of darkness. After a brief cracking sound, the purple python suddenly flung out its sturdy tail, swinging it against the ground and creating a deep trench on the street. At the same time, the purple python stuck its head out from the area filled with dark energy. Next, the purple python took a deep and long breath in and all the dark energy floated into its mouth. This view appalled all the soldiers of the Jew army that were ready to attack Su Ping. A purple python that merely had a middle-rank bloodline could sustain a strike from a 9th-rank pet of the demon family. How? Even one pellet of this dark energy could have straight off killed an 8th-rank pet. What on earth was that pet? As the dark energy collapsed, the raised scales on the top of the purple python's head slowly shrank back, revealing Su Ping. His body was unharmed, and his clothes were undamaged. After a long time of training, being a pet of the combat family without any element skills, the purple python was able to strengthen other advantages to the extreme, namely its strength and defense. Not even a beast at the upper position of the 9th rank could end the life of the purple python within one move. Not to mention the fact that this battle pet of the demon family was only at the intermediate position of the 9th rank. Kill! Su Ping stood up straight and glared at the crowd in front of him coldly. He gave one simple order to his pets. The Inferno dragon that was still in the air understood his intention promptly. Its eyes became even redder. It was both excited and dying for a taste of blood. The Inferno dragon felt it was at a cultivation site again where it could kill without restraint. Roar! The Inferno dragon used Air Splitter once more. Although huge, the Inferno dragon moved with flexibility, reaching the middle-aged man in no time. The middle-aged man was taken aback. He had been stunned still ever since he saw how Su Ping's ordinary-looking pet was able to fend off the darkness annihilation. He had observed that pet for a long time and concluded that it was just a slightly larger purple python. How could he know that the purple python was this strong in defense? Looking at the Inferno dragon that had reached him within a blink, the middle-aged man felt a chill running down his spine. All of a sudden, the air seemed to be boiling like water and even his clothes were burning up. But the middle-aged man didn't remain in this absent-minded state for long in the face of such terror. His rich experience enabled him to remember to communicate with his pets at once. Bang! The Inferno Dragon was about to pounce on the middle-aged man when something bumped it away. It was the pet of the Wind family, and this pet, too, had mastered Air Splitter. Besides, this pet had the inborn skill of Wing Feather, which allowed the pet to move even faster than the Inferno Dragon. When this pet used both skills, it would move so fast that beasts under the lower position of the 9th rank would be unable to see it with the naked eye. The pet of the Wing family had managed to bump the Inferno Dragon away, but it also began to cry in misery because the flames had stuck to its wings and body. The pet tried to pat down the flames and used energy to extinguish them, but the flames kept on burning heavily as if nothing could put them out until the pet died. Again, the middle-aged man was overwhelmed by disbelief as he noticed the flames covering up his pet. All of a sudden, he remembered something. He looked around, only to see how the rain of fire had reached every corner of the residence. At this moment, the fire had broken out in many places. Damn it! The middle-aged man had so much hatred that he almost cracked his teeth into pieces. He abruptly clapped his hands and mobilized his powers. Contract and blood combination. The energy in his body was violent, and even the astral power in the air around him was boiling. The next moment, all the energy was weaved into a complex and old mantra, which was suddenly imprinted on the pet of the Wind family. Ju Feng, no! Suddenly, an aged man shouted behind him. In the meantime, a figure dashed over, trying to stop this middle-aged man, but it was already too late. The pet of the Wind family was strengthened by the combination of blood and contract, immediately growing up in size. Its bones were cracking. The pet had jumped directly to the upper position of the 9th rank from the intermediate position. What? Su Ping frowned at this. When a battle pet reached the 9th rank, it would be hard to increase its combat strength temporarily, let alone move it up by one position. Su Ping didn't expect that this titled battle pet warrior could help his pets this much. When the two of them worked together, it wasn't simply one pet plus one person. One pet at the upper position of the 9th rank was able to kill 4 or 5 pets at the intermediate position of the 9th rank. Su Ping merely frowned for a few seconds. He once again opened up the space to begin summoning his pet. The merely half-a-meter-tall little skeleton jumped out. Kill! Su Ping commanded the little skeleton and pointed to its target. The Inferno Dragon was able to defeat a pet at the upper position of the 9th rank alone, but it wouldn't be able to finish the fight quickly enough. After all, this was the Ju family's territory. In case more people would gather, Su Ping decided that he should deal with some of the more difficult people first, and that would help him win a certain advantage. The little skeleton looked at Su Ping. The crimson light flickered in its eye sockets. Then, it turned to the man and his pet hovering in the air. Coldness filled up the little skeleton's eye sockets. Strands of dark aura gradually poured out from its bones. Whoosh! Its body flashed suddenly, disappearing into thin air. Wind bellow, kill it! Since Ju Feng used the augmentation skill on his pet, he felt that his whole strength had been emptied, but he could sense the surging power in his battle pet. Making a ferocious face, he waved his hand forward. Roar! The recently boosted wind pet soared in the sky and cried with a vigorous aura, stirring up the surrounding gusts of wind. The next moment, its fierce and sharp eyes fell on Inferno Dragon, and the wind bellow suddenly swooped toward it. The Inferno Dragon was roaring as well. It was about to charge toward its enemy when it felt something and stopped. The pet of the Wind family was very close to the Inferno Dragon now. Suddenly, it saw a dark figure appearing on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder, something tiny. What was that? Even in its furious state, the pet of the Wind family had to halt for a second. It could not understand what it was seeing. Ju Feng noticed that as well. He had never thought that a proud and dignified dragon would ever allow anything other than its master to stand on its shoulder. But the next second, what he saw almost took Ju Feng's breath away. He saw the tiny black shadow suddenly flicker and disappear. The next moment, the pet of the Wind family was swooping down like a building as a streak of blood suddenly appeared over its neck. Endless blood oozed out, and most of the sky was tainted red. The Inferno dragon moved to the side so that the pet of the Wind family could fall to the ground. In an instant, the pet had died. Boom! The huge body plunged to the ground with its rapid dive momentum, and the ground of the entire Jew's estate shook. Chapter 303: Overpowering an Entire Family. This shock was akin to a magnitude 12 earthquake. Buildings shook and walls cracked within a few miles of the place where the pet fell. Some houses that were closer to the battle site collapsed as the ground caved in. Dust was flying everywhere. On the ground, the body of the pet of the Wind family was motionless. The cut had lopped off its head, which rolled away. The head was still ferocious, but the eyes had become dull and dark. A 9th-rank pet had died. The others who were looking at ground level had been silenced by fear. In the air. No one saw this, but when the pet of the Wind family was falling, a tiny black figure was running upward along the pet's body. After the black figure reached the tail, it flashed and disappeared once more. The entrance closed behind him. Ju Feng's wind pet had just slammed against the ground. He was still out of sorts when he suddenly felt a coldness spreading across his body. In front of him, out of nowhere, came out a skeleton that was surrounded by a surging evil aura. This little skeleton held a bloody bone blade in its hand. This bone blade was like a fragment of a fang with an ugly structure, but an unusually creepy aura. No! In a fit of terror and fright, Ju Feng wanted to open his mouth and shout, and yet the sound only remained in his mind. With a puff sound, once again, blood was spilled in the sky. Ju Feng was cut in two. But the strange thing was, the bone blade that slashed him apart seemed to have some strong pull that made the body stick to the blade. There seemed to be a strange force field around the dead body. Because of the force field, the dead body was shaking constantly. Then, it suddenly turned into a pile of ashes, which then transformed into some red energy that seeped back into the bone blade. Some blood dried up and was absorbed by the seemingly mundane bone blade. All that happened within one breath. At the moment, only one skeleton was standing in the air. A titled battle pet warrior that was well known across the region had perished. No! The aged man who was hurrying over came to a stop. He witnessed everything. He could not believe what had just happened in front of his eyes. How could he process the fact that Ju Feng could have died within such a short time? His pet was also killed. Ju Feng was a titled battle pet warrior. How could he have died so soon? Staring at the skeleton with the evil energy floating around it, the aged man felt even his heart was pounding in fear. He was a bit stronger than Ju Feng, but he couldn't confidently say he could have killed Ju Feng that easily. Staring at the evil aura that was still spreading out from the little skeleton, the aged man shouted in haste, "Please stop. Please. Let's talk." His eyes were on the little skeleton while his words were for the young man because he was the little skeleton's master. Su Ping raised his head slightly. "Are you the family head? The Ju family sent someone to destroy the reputation of my store and try to stir up a fight between me and the Liu family. Now, who among you should be held accountable for this?" The aged man finally understood why the young man was there. Inwardly, the aged man was smiling bitterly. "You came to our door and killed Ju Feng. Now you're asking who should be held accountable." Frustrated as he was, the aged man answered at once, "No rush. I'm not the family head, but I will give you a satisfactory reply regarding what you have just mentioned." At the moment, the aged man knew that no amount of denial or stalling would do him any good. He couldn't find any excuses. The young man was right there, insisting on getting an answer. He wouldn't be easily fooled and sent off with some bureaucratic words. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. "If so, then tell your family head to come here, or get me the one responsible for that plan. Otherwise, I will kill all your titled battle pet warriors who come at me, one by one." The aged man's expressions shifted. The same thing happened to all the warriors of the Jew army who were gathered in the area. All of them were elite disciples of the Jew family. They could never stand this arrogant tone. You would kill those titled battle pet warriors one by one. What? Do you think that titled battle pet warriors are easy targets, like rabbits? Of course, given the fact that the winged pet's corpse was still there and that Ju Feng had just passed away. Furious as they were, none of them dared to stand up and refute Su Ping's claim. This young man was insufferably arrogant. The elderly man finally calmed himself down and asked, "How do I address you, sir?" "However you like." "Sir, how about you wait here? I will go and bring that man here to you." "This has been just a big misunderstanding," the elderly man said hurriedly. "Sure." Su Ping gave his approval. The elderly man was relieved that Su Ping did not continue with this killing spree. At the same time, the old man's hatred toward Su Ping deepened. He darted one final look to that dangerous skeleton before he turned away and hurried off. After the elderly man left, more and more people went to this area. The Jew army had the entire area surrounded. There were at least hundreds of them. They were accompanied by their pets, some of which were huge beasts and some were flying. At the moment, they were standing around Su Ping, keeping an eye out for any sudden moves he might make. Other than those warriors, other members of the Jew family had made an appearance. Some hopped onto the roofs and watched from the distance, and there were a few young people that were using telescopes to check out the situation. This battle had alerted the entire Jew family. People that had been resting, chatting, or cultivating at home went there to see, following the previous loud noises. Everyone seemed to be stunned because they never thought anyone would have the courage to create trouble in the Jew family territory. This was the Jew family. They were in a place where countless powerful warriors of the Jew family lived. This person who broke in was courting death. Some young people were mixed in the crowd of onlookers. When they saw the young person standing on the head of the purple python, one of the young people cried out in alarm, "Isn't that Mr. Su of the Pixie Pet Store?" "Mr. Su?" someone who heard asked in confusion. The first young person didn't answer this question because he had yet to recover from his shock. He was Ju Chuan, who had once visited Su Ping's store and even thought of buying the top 10 service. He could, not for the life of him, imagine that Mr. Su, whom he deemed as ordinary, and who would sit behind the counter all day long, could break into the Jew family territory and alert so many people. Su Ping was surrounded by the warriors of the Jew family. This scene had astounded Ju Chuan. How horrifying must Su Ping be, to be able to shock the entire Jew family all by himself? He would find it more understandable if it was some titled battle pet warrior that had established his fame a long time ago. But this was not Su Ping's case. Ju Chuan had talked with Su Ping in person and he always thought the latter was a kind man, without any traits that a powerful warrior should display. Ju Chuan had never been aware that Su Ping would be capable of such horrors. If Su Ping were to participate in the Elite League, he would have the ability to win the international championship. Then again, with such abilities, Su Ping probably didn't care about that kind of victory. Ju Chuan told himself. Su Ping would look at the warriors that came swarming toward him and the onlookers from the corners of his eye. Frowning, he kept on counting the seconds. Several minutes had passed and his patience was running out. All of a sudden, 4 people came flying over. They traveled across space and arrived next to Su Ping with a stunning presence. The 4 lowered themselves down a bit till they were 40 to 50 meters above ground so that they could look down on Su Ping. The middle-aged man standing in the middle didn't demonstrate his full strength, but the sharpness in his eyes could not be hidden. Coldly, he gazed at Su Ping. "Sir, you have broken into our territory for no reason at all. How rude." Su Ping raised his eyebrows and squinted his eyes. "What are you saying? It is the Jew family that offended me first. Now, are you saying that you're unwilling to turn that person over to me?" "Him, stop fussing around. You have hurt our people and you shall pay with your life." The middle-aged man snorted. He didn't do anything, but 3 giant swirls had appeared around him. Sharp claws or tentacles reached out from the massive, pitch-dark swirls. Soon, 3 large and violent figures crawled out. Those were 3 battle pets at the 9th rank. 2 were at the upper position and 1 was at the peak. The owner was the current family head of the Zhu family, Zhu Qianlin. As the 3 battle pets presented themselves in front of the crowd, the overwhelming sense slowly seeped across the area. Even warriors of the Zhu army had the urge to withdraw, unable to stand this pressure. Coldness flickered in Su Ping's eyes. Before he came here, he had anticipated that the Zhu family would probably be unwilling to give up that person. Therefore, he decided to go there himself so that he would catch the Zhu family off guard, in case they would initiate any follow-up plans after they found out that Sun Qiu had failed his mission. This was why Su Ping insisted on going there on this very day. Su Ping wanted to test the old man's reaction when he had Zhu Feng killed. Su Ping had thought that he would find his target without having to start a killing spree. He didn't know that the old man just went to get more help. Now that they had the chance, 4 titled battle pet warriors arrived and they were enough to defeat and end Su Ping's life. Yet again, as it turned out, people would need to learn about the truth when the pain was felt to the very depths of their souls. Life? Su Ping grinned. Give me your life first, then. Killing intent and violence slowly emerged in his pitch-dark eyes. Su Ping didn't go through so many deaths in the cultivation site so that he would grow a merciful heart. Kill! That was his instruction to the little skeleton. The little skeleton was standing quietly in the sky. Suddenly, the scarlet glow in its eye sockets shone brightly. This scarlet color was turning into 2 red lights that shot through the sky. The ancient and strong demon energy oozed out little by little, from the little skeleton's blood, from its soul, from its bones, and at that moment, the entire sky changed color. An aura that was close to that of a god and a demon slowly floated out. The 3 huge pets that Zhu Qianlin had just summoned were encircling him. At this very moment, the violence was receding from their eyes. Fear took over. With their acute perception, they had picked up something extremely dangerous from that insignificant tiny skeleton. That was the murderous intent that was directed at every living being. How terrifying that was! The 3 pets trembled as they stepped backward slowly. None of them was courageous enough to confront their opponent. Their panic was also transmitted to their master's consciousness in an instant through the contracts. When he sensed the panic from his pets, Zhu Qianlin, whose eyes were full of killing intent, was taken aback. In his eyes, the killing intent died down. He could not believe that his pets would be frightened. At the same time, he also felt an unusual chill, which grew stronger and stronger, and soon he figured out where the sense of danger came from. Chapter 304, Disgraced. The sense of danger came from the skeleton. Zhu Qianlin and the 3 other titled battle pet warriors' jaws dropped as they sensed this killing intent that could split their bodies up. As if on cue, the 4 of them fixed their eyes on the skeleton that was completely dark. Judging by its size and look, the 4 believed the skeleton was of a low-rank bloodline. That being said, the fact that the skeleton could stand in the air alone spoke volumes. It definitely was far from being a common one. It was likely to be an unknown, mutated skeleton. What appalled the 4 titled battle pet warriors even more was that the killing intent oozing out from the skeleton was so profound that it was suffocating. Like waves in the ocean, the killing intent assaulted them again and again. They felt that even their souls were shivering. It was as if they were standing in front of a demon rising from hell. It had been a long time since they had a taste of such terror. Shocked, the other 3 titled battle pet warriors summoned their respective pets at once. They only had 1 person as their opponent, but this time, they would no longer trust their abilities. Kill! To the death! The strong killing intent lingered in the little skeleton's consciousness. The shining rays of crimson light that came out from its eyes landed on the human that stood in the middle. All the killing intent and the strength in the little skeleton had merged into one. Bang! The little skeleton dashed out. Due to the power of this move, a blasting sound was heard in the air. Just as the noise reached everyone's ears, it disappeared again. That was because the little skeleton had vanished on the spot, right after making its move. At the same time, the 4 titled battle pet warriors, including Zhu Tianlin, focused all of their consciousness and mental powers on the little skeleton. However, to their astonishment, they realized that their consciousness and mental powers had lost their target. That figure that they saw with their own eyes was gone. And it left no trace behind, absolutely no clue to find, at all. That was impossible. Zhu Tianlin's pupils contracted in a fit of terror. Right then, he thought of a possibility. The skeleton used that special skill. Oh crap! Zhu Tianlin found his heart began to pound violently. Blood surged inside of him and the astral powers traveled along in his veins across his body. Within an instant, he had built up 10 astral shields to protect himself. Meanwhile, he used his mental power to push away the other 3 titled battle pet warriors. He could tell that the profound killing intent from the little skeleton was directed at him. While he did so, he used his mental power to build up an astral chaos field around him. That was a special skill used by the Zhu family. It was a skill that could disrupt any sneak attack attempts. Anything that fell within the scope of an astral chaos field would be crushed and all living beings' consciousnesses and souls would be destroyed. Unless that person's mental power was 3 times stronger than his. However, since he was at the upper position of the 9th rank, not even the senior titled battle pet warriors could have had such a strong mental power. At best, they would only have a mental power twice stronger than his. Of course, that didn't apply to legendary battle pet warriors. Roar! While Zhu Tianlin was setting up the layers of defense, he was able to give instructions to his 3 battle pets respectively. The pets received their master's order. Although frightened, the 3 pets were able to work up their courage. They bellowed and roared as they released their skills. Some of the skills were aimed at strengthening defenses and some were for indiscriminate attacks. Right then, space began to twist. This was when the little skeleton appeared. But it was not showing up in front of Zhu Tianlin, but next to the 3 pets. The surging mist-like demon aura completely enveloped the body of the little skeleton, which looked like a mass of darkness with only 2 rays of red light visible inside the demon energy. This view was horrific. Slash! The little skeleton drew its blade. The ugly and simple bone knife was covered with devilish energy in the little skeleton's hand, and the blade gradually turned into a near 8-meter-long sword burning with devil flames. Whoosh! The little skeleton flashed again. This time, the little skeleton made 3 flashes in a row. It jumped to reach the 3 pets one by one, and for each attack, the little skeleton merely stopped near them for 1 instant. By the time the little skeleton stopped its actions and showed itself in front of everyone, the devilish flames on the blade that was 10 times larger than the little skeleton itself had disappeared. All of this happened within a single second. There wasn't enough time for Zhu Tianlin and the other 3 titled battle pet warriors to react. By the time they understood what was going on, they picked up the sudden pungent smell of blood and heard miserable cries. Of the 3 pets that Zhu Tianlin summoned, blood was spilling out from their chest, neck, and wings respectively. Blood poured down from the sky. The sharp pain they felt from their gaping wounds made the pets unable to hold back their screams. One of the 3 pets had many tentacles, 7 or 8 of which had been cut off. Those tentacles that were over 10 meters long fell from the sky and reached the ground, crushing some of the buildings that were already on the verge of breaking down. No sound could be heard, whether on the ground or in the sky. Many Zhu family members who were watching in the distance and the warriors of the Zhu army who were surrounding Su Ping were all stunned still. They watched in complete silence. In the air, the 3 battle pets were still crying and screaming. The sound kept on echoing above the entire Zhu estate. Zhu Tianlin had a dull look on his face. The other 3 titled battle pet warriors standing around him were all looking in speechless despair, with disbelief all over their faces. That skeleton had hurt 3 pets of the 9th rank in 1 second. Really? One of the 3 pets was of the element family, and was already at the peak of the 9th rank. This event was beyond everyone's imagination. It came as a shock to all of them. The little skeleton killed Zhu Feng. When Zhu Tianlin and the other 3 titled battle pet warriors were informed of that incident and hurried over, They had learned that the skeleton was tricky and crueler than they could imagine. Yet, they still thought that they would do much better than Zhu Feng because he was merely at the lower position of the 9th rank. None of the four had any idea that in front of this skeleton, they and Zhu Feng were just the same. While Zhu Tianlin's mind was wandering off, the little skeleton was not idle. It was making its way to Zhu Tianlin. Zhu Tianlin came back to his senses the moment the little skeleton began to approach him. His mind was absent for merely one instant. When he saw the little skeleton reaching the astral chaos field that he had built up, a glint of evil intention rose in his eyes. But that evil intention collapsed within a second because Zhu Tianlin had been overcome with confusion. The little skeleton had stepped into the astral chaos field and the demonic flames were still burning around it. The little skeleton had a small body and yet it had become the only source of light that was visible in heaven and earth. The little skeleton had become a king of the devils that could devour the world. Steadily and forcefully, the little skeleton flew forward. Nothing could stop it. From his connection with the astral chaos field, Zhu Tianlin knew that a stranger had broken into the field. No matter how he tried to fight back, to struggle, he could not slow down the little skeleton for even one bit. If it weren't for the fact that the Zhu family's special skill for building up this field could affect the void and disable any skills of teleportation, the horrifying little skeleton would have reached Zhu Tianlin already. The field is ineffective? Zhu Tianlin was baffled. He had never met a creature that was completely unafraid of this skill. Zhu Tianlin could clearly feel that the strands of astral power he had set up in the astral chaos field were attacking the little skeleton with great force. However, all the strikes that were aimed at the little skeleton had failed to generate any results. The little skeleton had not even been slowed down. The little skeleton was immune to all the strikes. Nothing works. How is that possible? Zhu Tianlin was having a mental breakdown. For the first time, terror showed up in his eyes. His power was strong. Could it be that this skeleton was not at the 9th rank, but at the legendary level? At this thought, Zhu Tianlin trembled. A skeleton at the legendary level. That would mean that its master was also a legendary warrior. Had the Zhu family offended a legendary battle pet warrior? The daze and terror did not stay in Zhu Tianlin's eyes for long. Soon, the image of the demon that was approaching him pulled his thoughts back to reality. The cold, horrifying, and overwhelming sense was fixed on him as if a demon was staring at him from hell. The only thing that Zhu Tianlin could see was the figure that was entangled with rich demon aura and killing intent, and the pair of blood-red eyes. The little skeleton had arrived near Zhu Tianlin by then. It was looking down on him from a height and then, the little skeleton raised its bone blade. Zhu Tianlin heard some noises coming from the bone blade, a sound akin to when a match was lit and the fire was cracking. As the demonic flames were burning along the bone blade, it extended to several meters long. And it was going to land on Zhu Tianlin. No! All of a sudden, an old man cried out loudly. The old man was not by Zhu Tianlin, but close to Su Ping. When the little skeleton had hurt 3 of Zhu Tianlin's pets and stepped into the astral chaos field, inching closer to Zhu Tianlin, one of the titled battle pet warriors that was more advanced in age had come back to his senses. Instead of joining in the fight, he dashed down to meet the master of that scary skeleton at once. He was begging to this young man. Su Ping was still standing at the head of the purple python. He frowned, but he did send a message to the little skeleton. The bone blade stopped pressing down. I am begging you. Please. Stay your hand in mercy. The Zhu family will do anything to appease your anger. The hunchbacked old man with grey hair lowered his head and bowed to his waist to Su Ping. He sounded desperate. He was using polite words. He wasn't speaking loudly, but everyone heard him clearly since it was dead silent at the moment. His words astounded the Zhu army's warriors and onlookers alike. This young man had managed to overwhelm the entire Zhu family, forcing an elder to bow and apologize in person. After a second of astonishment, some higher-ups from the Zhu family that were present came back to their senses. Tears filled up their eyes. In the air, The other two titled battle pet warriors were also aware that their family head could be slain at any minute. They heard the elder begging, and after a second of hesitation they made up their minds and flew to join the old man. As of this moment, they knew this was the only way they could save their family head. Once their family head passed away, no matter how hard they tried to stop the news, it would be learned by the entire upper class of the base city in no time. Chapter 305. Right the Wrong with Blood. Sir, please, show mercy. The two titled battle pet warriors stood next to the old man. Same as the latter, both were bowing and saying words of apology to Su Ping. It was hard to imagine that those men would be this humble and modest. Su Ping frowned. He wasn't touched by their apology at all. What's the use of apologizing at this point? How do you know that I will let Ju family off the hook just because you begged me? The first elder to apologize raised his head and looked at Su Ping. His face was wrinkled. His voice was hoarse and cracked, filled with sadness. I know who is the person you are looking for, and I know why you're here. We are the ones in the wrong. We're willing to make up for all of your losses. But we don't deserve to die. His meaning was simple. To create such a scene just over some trivial disputes and to kill a family head over this matter was too much. Therefore, they chose to compromise. They believed that what they had done would not anger Su Ping to a degree that he would have to kill their family head. Su Ping raised his eyebrows and sneered at the old man. Now you know you're in the wrong. Why didn't you apologize when you first arrived? You need to have your life controlled by someone before you can say you're sorry, right? Is your apology even sincere? You're only sorry that you cannot defeat me. The old man forced a smile. We are truly sorry. He knew that Su Ping made sense, but who would actually listen to reason in this world? Su Ping hummed coldly at this old man. He didn't probe further into the matter. Naturally, he was well aware that, although this old man seemed to be regretting his deeds while waiting for Su Ping to release all of his powers, what awaited him would be the old man's violent retaliation. In this world, only with power could a person uphold the right to speak. Bring that person to me, Su Ping said, and his voice was devoid of emotion. The old man looked at Su Ping carefully and then at Ju Tianlin, who was still under the bone blade. Overpowered by the little skeleton, Ju Tianlin had no way to move at all. One wrong deed and the little skeleton would immediately slash at Ju Tianlin. The head of the Ju family had no control over his life at the moment. The old man took his eyes off Ju Tianlin and said to Su Ping, "Please wait for a moment. I will bring him to you right away." With that said, he told the person that went to get the four of them before. "Go and bring Ju Ji here." That man in a brown robe had a troubled look on his face, but he knew that there was nothing he could do to change the situation. He nodded and said to Su Ping, "Sir, I will go right now." Su Ping looked like a young man, but after seeing his pets and the power they wielded, none of the people present would dare to talk to him like a kid anymore. Rather, they believed that Su Ping was most likely a freak that had discovered some special way to become young again. Su Ping darted one look at this person. It seemed that it was unlikely that he would go and get more help. "Go!" The brown-robed man breathed in relief after he gained Su Ping's approval. Without any delay, the old man flew away. Silence prevailed even after the old man in the brown robe flew off to get that person. What had happened filled all the warriors and onlookers with mixed feelings. In less than 2 minutes, the brown-robed old man had returned, and coming with him was a middle-aged man wearing an expensive suit and a designer's watch that was worth millions. His look and dress made him look like a domineering leader. Of course, at this moment, this suited middle-aged man was more like a drowning dog. He was shivering as the old man carried him to meet with Su Ping. The middle-aged man appeared to be in a fit of panic. He stared at the young man standing on the head of the python. He felt that the python-like monster was gazing at him as well, and could swallow him with that huge mouth at any minute. Su Ping recognized right away that this person was the one who made the deal with Sun Qiu. Su Ping nodded. The Ju family did the smart thing. They had a correct judgment of the situation and didn't go on trying to fool him and challenge his patience. "Sir, this is the bastard that acted on his own and offended you. Please do whatever you see fit." The elderly man that apologized to Su Ping first cast one glance at the middle-aged man wearing a suit and then took a deep breath, bowing his head to Su Ping. Su Ping gazed at the middle-aged man who was so scared that he had lost the ability to talk. One look and Su Ping could tell that this person had been living a comfortable life, while also enjoying a high status. No matter how high his status could be, compared to the life of the family head, this middle-aged man's life meant nothing. "Any last words?" Su Ping asked the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man in a suit kept on trembling and cold sweat had soaked him through. He was just about to say something when he noticed the old man who was apologizing to Su Ping began to glare at him. That glare cut off his words like a sharp sword. The middle-aged man remembered his family, his wife, and his young children. Sir, please, spare my life. I was not in my sane mind and made a mistake. Please." Su Ping didn't respond to his begging. The man went on for a minute but Su Ping failed to hear anything useful. He raised his hand. "Go to hell." Space collapsed and an intangible hand came into being, which held the middle-aged man in a tight grip. Bang! The body of the suited middle-aged man suddenly exploded, his begging stopped abruptly. The faces of the three titled battle pet warriors changed slightly. At this moment, they no longer doubted that this person who looked like a teenager was a titled battle pet warrior and an old freak at that. No wonder that small shop was so emboldened to oppose the Liu family. It turned out that there was such a freak in charge. They regretted ever getting involved. After squeezing the middle-aged man to death, Su Ping put down his hand. But at this moment, he suddenly frowned, and the barely subduing coldness in his eyes became even more intense in an instant. "He is not the real plotter." Su Ping's glare on the three titled battle pet warriors was cold. "Hand over the real person behind this and everyone involved." Su Ping realized that after killing this middle-aged man, the system did not tell him that the mission was over. The mission was for him to find the real culprit and it had not been accomplished yet. That was to say, this middle-aged man was merely a minion acting under someone else's orders. The real culprit was still alive. Hearing Su Ping's words, the expressions of the three titled battle pet warriors changed. Unexpectedly, this matter was not over yet, and even more surprisingly, Su Ping suddenly stated that this person was not the mastermind. Did he know who the real plotter was? Or was he deliberately blackmailing them? For a moment, none of the three said anything. Since none of them was answering his question, Su Ping had become more impatient. "So, was the person who planned this your family head? If so, I will have him killed." The three of them instantly turned ghastly pale out of fear. "No!" The old man that was the first to apologize said in haste, "Sir, I will do that. Consider it done. It's not our family head. It's someone else. Trust us and give us one more chance. I want the real plotter of this matter, and everyone involved in it, everyone playing a role. You find them for me, and I'll ask them questions one by one. If you leave anyone out, the next one dying will be your family and then it will be your turn." Su Ping said coldly. He was not telling them but ordering them. The three titled battle pet warriors pulled a long face but they nodded at once. Zhu Tianlin was the strongest of them, and not even him was Su Ping's opponent. Even if they brazenly took action, they might not be able to kill Su Ping. Besides, Su Ping was there alone and he was fiery as it was. Who could tell if more masters were hiding in that shabby store? Go and get all of them. I mean each and every one of them who participated in this plot. The words were said to the brown-robed old man. The brown-robed old man looked at the one giving him this order and was scared by the cold and vicious glares that fell on him. The former turned around, forced a smile at Su Ping, and left to find those people as requested. Soon, over 10 minutes passed. While Su Ping's patience was about to vanish, the brown-robed old man came back to where Su Ping was. This time, with his astral powers, he carried 8 men and brought all of them to Su Ping. "It's them," the brown-robed old man reported to Su Ping with respect. "Everyone involved is here." Su Ping lifted his eyes and glanced over them, and found that the people present were either luxuriously or normally dressed. One look and he could tell those people had different status in the family. Su Ping made another request, "Tell me who is behind the plot. How did you participate in this plot? Come clean." The 8 people trembled, their eyes were full of panic, and some of them felt desperate. The oldest of them all was one in his 60s. He turned to the elderly titled Battle Pet Warrior, begging with his eyes, but the answer he received was just an indifferent look. Soon, under the pressure of Su Ping and the 3 titled Battle Pet Warriors, all of the 8 gave a full account of what roles they played. The mastermind was the 60-year-old man, and the others were members of his family. Some were his cousins, some were his grandchildren, some of them helped to run errands to transmit information, and some provided the toxin that poisoned the Aurora fox, while some gave suggestions and perfect plans. After all the questions were answered, Su Ping slapped the 60-year-old man's body in a fit of sullen anger. Still, the system did not tell him that the mission was completed. As such, Su Ping generated a giant palm and smashed all the remaining 7. The 7 died at the same time, and blood was spilled on the ground, as well as on the head and neck of the purple python. Right the wrong with blood. Chapter 306, A Reasonable Man. Having killed the 8 of them, Su Ping suddenly heard the system's voice in his mind, announcing that the mission of finding the real culprit had been completed. After he heard the message, the killing intent in his eyes gradually faded away. It seemed that this time, the Jew family did well. They wouldn't dare to challenge him again. "Sir, sir." The 3 titled Battle Pet Warriors had lost control of their facial expressions as the 8 people died tragic deaths right before their eyes. They had completely disgraced the Jew family because they were the ones who had personally handed the 8 people over to Su Ping. And yet, since they were willing to do everything to save their family head, they had to endure the humiliation. The elderly titled Battle Pet Warrior bowed to Su Ping as he asked, still scared, "They were all the people who were involved in the incident, and all of them have been punished accordingly. Now, could you please let our family head go?" As the elderly man made this request, the other 2 titled Battle Pet Warriors turned to Su Ping as well, waiting for his reply nervously. They had allowed Su Ping to finish the lives of their family members. If it turned out that Su Ping was merely screwing with them and was going to kill their family head no matter what, that would no longer be acceptable. That hatred would be irreconcilable, and they would fight against Su Ping until one of the involved parties died. Of course, in that case, they would have to mobilize the resources of the entire Jew family. If and when they killed Su Ping, the Jew family's strength would also be compromised. The Jew family would either have to leave the Longjiang base city or end up being cannibalized by the other 4 major families. Either way, it wasn't something that the Jew family would want to experience. Besides, honestly speaking, they weren't sure that they could take away Su Ping's life. After all, they still didn't have a clear idea about Su Ping's full strength. He remained a man of mystery. Su Ping looked at the 3 titled Battle Pet Warriors in front of him. All of a sudden, he put on a grin and asked, "Say, I have humiliated the Jew family. Will you get back at me afterward?" The 3 titled Battle Pet Warriors seemed to be frightened. They waved their hands in haste. "No, of course not. Never." The elderly titled Battle Pet Warrior who apologized first and who was the most esteemed of them all made a pledge. "Sir, I promise that from now on, no one in the Jew family will ever offend you or the store you have. We made ignorant mistakes this time and displeased you because of it. Those men died and they deserved it. Your punishment has come at a good time. I swear in my name, Zhu Tianguang, and my title." Titles were what titled Battle Pet Warriors valued the most because their titles represented their honor. Swearing on his title meant he was serious. Nevertheless, Su Ping would not trust promises that weren't legally binding. He wouldn't trust them even if they swore in the name of their parents or their ancestors, let alone a mere title. Once people decided to go back on their words, no amount of previous promises would matter. Verbal promises could be broken, and that was a rule amongst the fierce overlords. This Zhu Tianguang acted submissive at this moment. But he was a famous titled battle pet warrior in the Longjiang base city. He would say one word and many people would go bankrupt. When he held birthday parties, many prominent households and families would pay a visit to congratulate him. He was someone who was able to control the forces of nature. It sufficed to say that Zhu Tianguang was such a fierce overlord. Su Ping would never, for the life of him, believe the promises made by such a person. It went without saying that Zhu Tianguang would hate him. And he sure would want to seek revenge. Yet, Su Ping still stopped the killing while he was sure of those facts. In the air, the little skeleton had received Su Ping's orders. The evil aura that was surging around the little skeleton was completely absorbed back into its body. Once again, the little skeleton became its old, dull-looking self. The little skeleton went back to Su Ping without giving Zhu Tianlin another look. The little skeleton landed on the head of the purple python and stood beside Su Ping. The blazing inferno dragon also made a slow descent, stopping next to the purple python. The inferno dragon's eyes were filled with violence, coldness, craziness, and calmness all at once. The inferno dragon fixed its glare at the three titled battle pet warriors. Any wrong move on their part and the inferno dragon would attack immediately. As the little skeleton left, Zhu Tianlin felt the horrifying shadow over him and the suffocating stress on his chest vanish as well. The warm sunshine bathed him, and at this moment he had feelings of having returned to the light and of having been reborn. He had heard every word in the conversation between the three titled battle pet warriors who were the cornerstone of the Zhu family and Su Ping. After all, Zhu Tianlin himself was a titled battle pet warrior. As long as he had the intention to, he would hear an ant crawling 1,000 meters away. He could feel that his back was soaked wet with cold sweat. His heart was still fluttering with fear. He never thought that his life would be at risk on such an ordinary Saturday. The expression on his face was troubled. He certainly looked awful. He slowly flew down to join the three titled battle pet warriors. He threw a glance at the skeleton which was standing next to Su Ping. Zhu Tianlin was still afraid of it. Soon, Zhu Tianlin turned to Su Ping and produced a forced smile. "Sir, thank you for being merciful." As the defeated, he could not think of anything else to say. In front of him, the dead bodies of the people who had been handed over to Su Ping were still sprawled on the ground. Blood was still visible on the neck of the python. Even so, Zhu Tianlin had to smile. At this moment, Zhu Tianlin, a man who could control the lives of others, who sat at the top of the Longjiang base city and controlled countless civilians, had become a complete loser. The weak were the prey of the strong. Usually, Zhu Tianlin was the strong, but he had to play the part of the weak this time. The weak had no dignity to enjoy. Therefore, although he was standing by the corpses of his family members, Zhu Tianlin still had to smile and say thanks to Su Ping. "I'm a reasonable man." Su Ping looked at the four. His look was composed and at the same time, a profound meaning could be seen in his eyes. He could understand that the four felt humiliated, but he would not feel sorry for them. No debts without creditors, no hatred without cause. "Your family offended me first. You aimed to tarnish my store's reputation. I came here to seek revenge, and that is the sole cause. They died and my revenge is over. The disputes between us have thus come to an end. This is the effect. You give unprincipled protection to your family members regardless of their wrongdoings. That is the cause on your part. Therefore, as of now, the humiliation has come to you, and that is the effect you deserve to see. I don't care what you think about this. But on my part, that is all in the past, over and done with. If you want to come and get back at me, my door will always be open. But don't forget about this, you have to face the effect of your decisions." As he arrived at the last sentence, Su Ping sounded serious and his look remained calm. However, when the last syllable ended, a smile suddenly climbed over his face. This smile was peculiar. It seemed that Su Ping was a bit cynical, a bit casual, and at the same time, a bit violent and cold. Zhu Tianlin and the three titled battle pet warriors lowered their heads. Su Ping could not see this, but they were all grinding their teeth in hatred. Su Ping broke into their territory, Killed so many of them without even so much as batting an eye, and then he claimed that he was reasonable? Your Pixie Pet Store and the Liu family are the ones competing against each other, to begin with. We did nothing but to add some fuel to the already existing fire. We didn't kill anyone in your family. But you came and did not stop until you killed our people. What kind of reasoning is that? Of course, they only dared to shout those words within their hearts. They just wished that this demon could leave as soon as possible. Su Ping darted them one more look and smiled again. He could sense their hidden anger and killing intent. He was fully aware of their thoughts, but that had nothing to do with the decisions he made and the things he did. Just like he said, no debts without creditors, no hatred without cause. He had found his creditors and that was it. As for the Jew family, since he had offended them, the best solution was to kill them all to remove the source of the trouble. That being said, the Jew family was one with a century-old history in the Longjiang base city. On the one hand, it would be hard to annihilate them all. On the other, there were good people and there were bad people in this big family. There could be loyal members of the family, others could be entirely innocent in this plot. Someone born in the Jew family didn't necessarily have to get along with the Jew family members. Some even had left the Jew family a long time ago, though they still had the Jew family's blood running through their veins. People who desired to wipe out an entire family would either be psychopaths or killing maniacs. Su Ping was neither of them. His brain told him what it would be the most advantageous decision for him, and at the same time, he had enough moral standards left to tell him what kind of choices he had to make. As for the future retaliation from the Jew family, from the 4 titled Battle Pet Warriors' reaction, Su Ping could feel that while they hated him, were clearly angry at him and surely wanted to get back at him, they still had enough sense to know that they wouldn't easily resort to action before they were sure that they could take away his life. To think and to act were different. Naturally, it was understandable that they would want to get back at him after he killed their people. It was well within reason. Furthermore, every big family had countless people. Some would inevitably stir up troubles, and sometimes those troubles could be tough. However, that didn't mean that the Jew family would have to fight back like a mad dog every time they came across a tough issue. A force like that would be like gangsters. Such a family would never be able to sustain a history of over 100 years like that. That was also why the 5 major families rarely engaged in many bloody battles while they would have conflicts often. After all, a wounded wolf would no longer be a hunter. It would be the game of another hunter. This also explained why the Jew family was willing to let Su Ping kill the 8 members one by one. They would rather lose their dignity than their family head. The family head was the core of the family and the bloodline of the family. They could bear it no matter how many furs and skins were hurt, but never the bones. Skin wounds could be healed eventually, but a wound to the bone would not be able to recover anytime soon. Therefore, in tough situations like this, they would be furious, but they would also bear the insult. They would bear it until one day they were stronger than their opponent, and they were confident that they could finish their opponent off within one move, and that was when they would take action. That was how the major families sustained their lives in the world. Su Ping knew that as long as he could maintain his strength, the Jew family would be terror-stricken by him forever. At the same time, if the Jew family were so foolish as to get back at him right away, Su Ping would not mind it. He had a few weaknesses. His mom and dad could stay within the safety zone of the store. That unlovable young sister of his would go to the best academy in the continent after the elite league. Given the strength of the Jew family, they would never be able to exert any influence there. Also, the vice principal would take care of Su Lingyu for him while in the academy. The vice principal was a titled battle pet warrior at the peak level. He was less powerful than Venerable the Blade and had little chance to reach the legendary level. That being said, he was one of the best titled battle pet warriors. He alone could overpower the entire Jew family. Sir, you don't have to say that. We were the ones in the wrong. We wouldn't dare to think of revenge. As a matter of fact, we have to thank you for cleaning up our family for us, Zhu Tianguang complimented Su Ping. Zhu Tianlin, who was standing next to him, felt his mouth twitch, but he left his words unsaid. He understood that he had to admit defeat for the moment. As the family head, to say those words would be inappropriate. So, it had to be Zhu Tianguang. Su Ping replied with a smile and a shake of his head, but nothing more. Naturally, he would never treat those empty words seriously. On the other hand, the fact that he was able to come up with those empty words at this time attested to the fact that this old man sure was patient. When a man wanted to make something of himself, he would have to put some effort into it. "See you," Su Ping said. Under his feet, the purple python suddenly began to slap the ground with its tail, then it turned away and left. Zhu Tianlin and the others were relieved that Su Ping was leaving and angry since he said "see you" at the end. "See you? See you never." All of them filed their teeth in indignation. As the purple python turned around, the warriors of the Zhu army standing guard came back to their senses and cleaned up a path in fear. Since their family head and the higher-ups present didn't say a word and they seemed to have given silent consent of letting Su Ping leave, those warriors stepped to the side at once. The rest of the onlookers also moved away in a hurry. With everyone's eyes on them, the python took the lead and the dragon followed. They stomped over the street and the carefully trimmed grass, gradually going further and further away. The man standing on the head of the python would forever leave an impression on all the Zhu family members. After Su Ping completely left Zhu family premises and his energy had vanished, Zhu Tianlin and Zhu Tianguang felt they could finally breathe. As they relaxed, they noticed that their bodies were sore. They were glad that the young man didn't begin a killing spree in their territory. If Su Ping had gone completely mad, not stopping until his killing desire was satisfied, the Zhu family would have probably been doomed by then. This doom didn't necessarily mean that the young man would destroy the entire Zhu family. It was more in the sense that the Zhu family would have to pay a great price. Once they suffered heavy losses, then the Zhu family would have to deal with the other 4 major families that would be eyeing them like hungry wolves. Clean this up and let the guards go. Impose a gag order. No one can say a thing about what happened today. Zhu Tianlin coldly glanced over everyone present. He saw the many people gathered, who were still in shock and confusion. Zhu Tianlin felt embarrassed, when thinking that he had been put in a difficult position in front of those people. This invasion had harmed the Zhu family's dignity, and the matter had to be dealt with great care. They would have to try their best to lock the information. Otherwise, they would become a joke. That would take a great toll on all of the aspects related to the Zhu family and their stock price would take a steep fall. Yes. The old man wearing the brown robe nodded. He took a look at one of the dead bodies. It was Zhu Feng. This time, the Zhu family had lost a titled battle pet warrior. Each titled battle pet warrior would be considered a cornerstone to a family. Once they lost one, the family would be at a greater risk of falling. Luckily, the most powerful titled battle pet warriors were still alive. They could manage to keep the family going. "Sir, are we letting the matter go?" a female titled battle pet warrior asked. She was still unwilling to accept the fact. The others were unhappy to hear her words. She was peeling the scar off the wound that had just healed. Zhu Tianlin's eyes glowed in coldness. "What else do you think we can do?" Before Zhu Tianlin answered, Zhu Tianguang, who apologized first to save Zhu Tianlin's life, quickly darted a glare at the female. "Didn't you see how horrifying that man is? He must be someone at the peak level as a titled battle pet warrior. Who, other than those old guys that have retired from society, dares to fight him? Besides, who can tell if there is anyone more powerful behind him? Naturally, a powerful warrior would have several good friends that are just as strong. How do you think we can get back at him?" Zhu Tianlin looked at Zhu Tianguang and heaved a sigh. The former patted his shoulder. "Uncle, thank you so much this time." Zhu Tianguang shifted his look to the pools of blood. Sadness flashed past his eyes, but he hid it well. He took a deep breath. "Zhu Shu was my son and Zhu Ji was the grandson of my deceased comrade-in-arms. They offended the wrong people and almost made the family fall into crisis. Their deaths have put an end to this entire event. I just hope you wouldn't blame them and can allow them to be buried in our family graveyard." Zhu Tianlin looked at Zhu Tianguang for a while. Naturally. The former nodded. The female heaved a sigh but said nothing else. The other two titled battle pet warriors remained silent. This time, almost all of the deceased were from Zhu Tianguang's family. He lost his son and no one could feel that pain. Yet, for the greater good of the family, Zhu Tianguang chose to swallow the pain. This tolerance was unmatched. Given this man's strength and power, he and the Liu family will inevitably fight someday. Zhu Tianguang was deep in thoughts. All we need to do is to sit on top of the mountain to watch the tigers fight. Let's see if the Liu family can force out all the cards of this small store. It will be best if both sides are ruined. If the Liu family is the one destroyed, then we will eat up what is left of the Liu family to make up for our loss. If the store is the one on the losing end, then we can go and get our revenge. Zhu Tianlin nodded. He naturally would not pass any opportunity to hit that person when he was down. Too many people in our family must have seen what happened today, given the scale of this night's disturbance. I think it will be hard to cover this up, the female cautioned. Heed my command, kill anyone who leaks this information. Zhu Tianlin said coldly, try your best to conceal the fact. If words do get out, tell people that the man was scared away by us. We cannot let the Liu family know about his real strength. Otherwise, I don't think the Liu family will be willing to fight a monster for the sake of Liu Yuan. Of course. We can create some trouble for the Liu family even if we lost to this man. Su Ping left the Zhu family residence. He stored away the Inferno Dragon and the Purple Python. He hopped into the car, letting the little skeleton take the front passenger seat, and he drove away. He left the King's Zone quickly and drove back home along the highway. This entire trip took him 4 or 5 hours. He didn't spend much time in the Zhu family territory, most of the time was invested on the trip itself. Su Lingyu ran out when she heard the noise from the car. She asked Su Ping curiously, "Where did you go?" On normal occasions, she would rarely see Su Ping leave. He would just stay in his store, being mysterious. Su Ping rubbed her head. To collect some debts. Debts? Su Lingyu slapped his hand away. You would allow anyone to buy something on credit? As far as she could tell, Su Ping would always take money before he noted down the customer's information. How could anyone be indebted to him? Su Ping didn't explain. He went to his store and shook Tang Ruyan out of the painting. If you don't have anything else to do, go and train with your Aunt Tang. Su Lingyu was stunned still to see Tang Ruyan falling out from the painting. She had never seen anything like this. Tang Ruyan had little time to be angry over the fact that he had once again thrown her onto the ground when she noticed his words. Aunt Tang? Since when did I become Aunt Tang? I was Miss Tang a few days ago. How could I be Aunt Tang? Men. Su Ping darted a glance at Su Lingyu and saw how the latter could not take her eyes away from the scroll. He threw the scroll to her. Just a piece of artifact. When you finish looking, give it back to me. Also, don't tell people about it. This is quite expensive, at least worth several billion. I don't want people to covet my things. Su Lingyu had just taken over the scroll. When she heard the number several billion, her trembling hands almost dropped the painting in disbelief. She stared at the painting scroll. This piece of paper was worth several billion? In her world, even 1 billion would be an astronomical figure. And several billion would be astronomical figures. She didn't doubt the authenticity of Su Ping's words because this painting would house people. She had never heard of an item that could do this. It was not strange that the painting would be worth billions. She realized that there were more things in the world she didn't know than she could even imagine. Su Ping paid no attention to Su Lingyu, nor to the girl who was eyeing him with killing intent. He just hurled an instruction to the girl. I will leave my sister to you. Do your job. With that said, he went into a storage room. The storage room was where he hoarded pet food. When the doors were closed, this room would be completely shut off. Without his permission, no one could come in or sense the room, and that applied to Joanna as well. Not even a god could change this rule. Let's see the reward, Su Ping said in his mind. His trip to see the Zhu family was because of several considerations. First, he was angry that the man was willing to sacrifice his Aurora fox. Second, he was angry that the fame of his store had almost been destroyed. Third, he had to finish the system's mission and obtain that pet skill of legendary level. Mission accomplished. The host can start the lucky draw, the system said. Su Ping could have done this the moment the mission was accomplished back at the Zhu family estate, but he was too busy then. Start! Su Ping stared at the imaginary roulette. Soon, the words flashed by in a blur. Those were all pet skills. Stop! The roulette gradually slowed down to a full stop. A book that was giving out a green hue jumped out. Chapter 307, Legendary Skill, Gate of the Dead. Emitting a hazy glow, the book seemed to be full of the luster and the surging vigor of life. However, as the glow faded away, and the name of the skill came forward, a breath of the dead assaulted his senses, suffocating him. Su Ping took a closer look. Gate of the Dead? Judging by the name, the skill appeared to be suitable for beings of the undead family. Su Ping was gladly surprised. At first, when he saw the green glow, he had thought that this skill was for plant family pets or healing. As it turned out, the skill was just for pets like the little skeleton. He extended his consciousness to the book and a piece of information came surging into his mind. Skill, Gate of the Dead, Legendary Level. Score, 85. Note, legendary skills are rated from 10 to 99. Explanation: with the power of the dead, open the Gate of the Dead and summon the deceased to assist you in a battle. This was interesting. For the first time, he came to understand that legendary skills had a rating system. The skills he had come across never had such a rating system. Also, the rating sure had a wide range, from 10 to 99. The gap between the lower and upper limits was huge. Of course, according to the score, the legendary skill he had picked should be one of the advanced ones, since it had a score of 85. This skill is somewhat like the undead enslaving the little skeleton masters. Both skills are to summon the deceased to help out in a fight. But undead enslaving is a middle-rank pet skill and the little skeleton can only enslave corpses lying around, which would drain its mental and physical energy. Without any corpses available, undead enslaving would be ineffective. Also, the corpses that are enslaved cannot be stored in the contract space together with the little skeleton. I would have to find corpses every time for that skill to work. On the other hand, the Gate of the Dead can open up at any time. As long as the little skeleton has enough energy, it can summon countless deceased beings to be its warriors. But I wonder how strong the summoned deceased can be. Su Ping asked himself. The images of his pets moved back and forth on his mind. After much deliberation, he decided that he would let the little skeleton have this skill. At the current moment, the little skeleton was still Su Ping's strongest card, and his major and most powerful pet. How the little skeleton did would decide the upper limit of his combat strength. With the Inferno Dragon, the Purple Python, and the Dark Dragon Hound, he could ensure that he could have diversified advantages. By leveraging the strengths of his pets of various species, he was able to tackle challenges that might occur in different environments and places. Although the Gate of the Dead was somewhat similar to the little skeleton's undead enslaving, the effects would be utterly different considering that the first was a legendary skill, and the latter was a middle-rank pet skill. When Su Ping was drawing the skill, his original intention was also for the skill to be proper for the little skeleton. Whoosh! Without further hesitation, Su Ping summoned the little skeleton in the storage room. The little skeleton hopped out and looked up at Su Ping in confusion. Su Ping turned the skill over to the little skeleton and told it to absorb it with its consciousness, just as it did when absorbing energy. The little skeleton was quite obedient and followed Su Ping's instructions. Soon, the skill book turned into a mist and seeped into the little skeleton's skull, into the depths of its consciousness. The skill was not engraved in the little skeleton's soul. The little skeleton had learned the skill instantly and would never forget it unless the little skeleton chose to wipe it out voluntarily. Su Ping smiled happily since the little skeleton was able to absorb the skill. He immediately cast an identification skill on the little skeleton. Little skeleton. Property: pet of the demon family. Rank: intermediate position of the 7th rank. Combat strength: 16.5. Aptitude: average. Abilities mastered: regeneration, undead enslaving, puppetry, fire blaster, dark tornado, deadly roar, darkness blinding, gate of the dead. Including 24 more various skills. As Su Ping read the number behind the combat strength, he could not believe what he was seeing. A combat strength of 16.5? But the little skeleton had just reached 10 recently. Later on, the little skeleton did accumulate some divine energy, but it wasn't that helpful to the growth of combat strength. Su Ping trained the little skeleton while he was training other customers' pets and the Moonfrost dragon. That being said, he only managed to increase the little skeleton's combat strength to 13.2. Surprisingly, after absorbing this, Gate of the Dead, little skeleton's combat strength increased by more than 3 points. After the little skeleton's combat strength reached a 10 score, every time Su Ping took it to a cultivation site, the little skeleton's combat strength would only grow by 0 point something. Even an increase of 0.2 would be considered stunning. But this one skill book was equal to more than 10 trips to a cultivation site. The combat strength growth because of the skill is stunning. That is an increase of more than 3 points. For any average legendary battle pet warriors, they would have to cultivate for over a dozen years to have such progress. While shocked, Su Ping was interested to know the exact strength of the skill which could drive up combat strength by 3 points directly. I need to find a cultivation site and test it when I have time. I have to find out the details of the skill or else I will know how to use it in actual battles. Su Ping thought. He patted the little skeleton which was still a bit in a daze and sent it back to the contract space. Unfortunately, the storage room was too small for the Inferno Dragon. Otherwise, Su Ping would have the urge to find out the score of the legendary skill, Inferno Dragonfire, that the Inferno Dragon had pushed itself to learn. Ding! The host's identification spell is too inferior to check the rating of the pet skills, the system cautioned Su Ping in goodwill. Su Ping pulled a long face. Now, this would cost energy points as well? Tell me a number. 100,000 energy points. What an unethical system. Although furious, Su Ping did choose to upgrade the spell considering that he would use it many times in the future. Besides, given the current income level of his store, he could afford the 100,000 energy points. Legendary skills can be upgraded. So, can the Gate of the Dead be upgraded? If so, will the score go up? Su Ping asked all of a sudden. The Inferno Dragonfire that the Inferno Dragon learned was at the first level and could move up further. The system answered, Gate of the Dead can be upgraded, but it will be rather difficult. If you want to upgrade it, the quality of the skill will be far superior to the legendary level. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. That was to say, it was a valuable skill. This fact made him even more curious, making him want to find out more about the skill. Su Ping went out of the storage room. Having found no one in the store, Su Ping went to the test room. There, Su Lingyu was learning with Tang Ruyan. He gave a peek through the cracks of the door and then left without alerting them. Chapter 308, Commotion. Back in the uptown area. The Jew family was exhausting every means to block the flow of information. However, since the assault and the battles had caught too much attention from too many witnesses, some information managed to leak out of the Jew family estate. The other major families, some men of wealth or power of the upper class, had received this piece of news. The Jew family was under attack. They lost a titled battle pet warrior. Those words alone were enough to frighten all the major forces. Immediately, they sent out people to dig for more details, more inside information about the attack. Soon, another piece of news that was even more shocking reached them. Only one person assaulted the Jew family. This piece of information alone had stirred up a huge sensation. All the major forces were on high alert. A person able to attack the Zhu family all by himself had enough strength to disrupt the current situation in the Longjiang base city. The quietness and serenity that had always reigned over the uptown area were destroyed at this moment. At the Liu family mansion, all the founding members and leaders of the Liu family were seated in a conference room. Everyone's faces were overcast with seriousness. When the Liu family received the information from the mole they planted in the Zhu family, the entire Liu family was sunken into disbelief. The information they received covered more details. They not only knew that there was only one attack but also the identity of the attacker. This attack was related to the pet store. That pet store was an emerging business. Because of its competition against the Liu family, including the crazy slogans and the dragon, that pet store had attracted quite a bit of attention. It was a known fact that the Liu family and that store were rivals. The fact that halfway into this game, their opponent suddenly ran off and beat up an onlooker had surprised the Liu family. Was he going after the wrong target by accident? Naturally, this couldn't have happened without reason. The Liu family was eager to find out why that store had attacked the Zhu family and the specifics of the battle. You've all heard about this, right? Liu Qianzong, the family head, stood up and looked around the room. Half an hour ago, the Zhu family was under attack. The deceased was Zhu Feng, the one that had just become a titled battle pet warrior a few years back. You must know him. Although he had not been a titled battle pet warrior for long, he was a genius in the Zhu family. His most glorious moment was when he was still at the 8th rank. He fled the capture of a titled battle pet warrior from another base city. It was said that he could fight people who were of higher ranks. Also, throughout the years, he had always behaved in a low-key manner. If he hadn't been sacrificed, he would have grown to be a leading warrior, a tiger in the Zhu family. The room was as silent as a grave. Liu Qianzong continued, but he kept his voice low. The tiger who was on his steady rise to the peak was killed within the bounds of the Zhu family residence. What rank do you suppose the killer has? The others avoided making eye contact with Liu Qianzong. The answer they thought of was stressing themselves out. To be able to kill a title battle pet warrior of the Zhu family in their own residence, one who was able to fight across ranks, the killer must be, at least at the upper position of the titled level. Since no one said anything, Liu Qianzong continued, according to the source of intelligence, Zhu Feng was killed because he was alone and he had underestimated his opponent. However, after that person murdered Zhu Feng, he then fought against several others who were leaders of higher seniority, as well as the family head, Zhu Qianlin. Still, that person managed to swagger off. No one could make him stay. That is to say, this person should be at the peak, or is someone incredibly talented. His voice was full of worry, which deepened the silence in the room. A moment later, an elderly man interposed, "Sir, why did that man attack the Zhu family? If that person was related to the pet store, why would they offend the Zhu family when they already had us as opponents? Wouldn't that be foolish? Or, did the Zhu family commit a heinous act?" The others turned to Liu Qianzong because they, too, wondered about the same thing. They once thought that this store was most likely from another base city and was trying to gain a foothold in the Longjiang base city. They chose to target the Liu family with the aim to take their place. But after the attack, the Liu family no longer had this speculation. To be as bold as to provoke the Liu family was already unimaginable. However, that store went to anger another major family before the disputes with the Liu family were settled. That store had two major enemies at the moment. The Zhu family must have done something so vicious that drove the store owner out of his mind. That was the conjecture on everyone's minds. Liu Qianzong noticed the looks on the attendees. He curled his lips. He had learned about the reason for the attack on the Zhu family from another spy he had planted in the Zhu family. That spy had been working with the Zhu family for over 20 years and would only contact Liu Qianzong in person. When Liu Qianzong was informed of the reason, he wondered for a moment if he had heard it wrong. The reason that the Zhu family was attacked was nothing like what he had imagined. Liu Qianzong took a deep breath. Then, he slowly began his explanation. The Jew family was targeted because they bribed a person that bought the top 100 service in that store. They told that person to shame that store and tarnish its reputation. They also told that person to pretend that he was acting under the Liu family's orders to aggravate the situation between us. Those words stunned everyone into stillness. Someone was still gazing at Liu Qianzong in confusion, waiting for him to go on, but he stopped talking altogether. Clearly enough, he had finished explaining. That was it? Seriously? That person went to attack the Jew family just because they sent a person to smear his reputation? He killed a titled battle pet warrior over that. Everyone stared at each other aghast, loudly expressing their disbelief. They had thought something grave must have occurred, something more serious than having one's parents murdered. How could they ever imagine that it was merely over such a trivial matter? Smearing the reputation of the store? That was something they did online every day. Shaming the opponents is a basic means employed in commercial competition, all right. Yes, the Jew family directed one person to make an unreasonable scene at the store. At best, this could be called a staged crisis. That was the underlying cause for the attack against the Jew family? No one knew what to say about this matter. Of course, the Jew family had angered the Liu family by employing such a tactic, and they all somehow felt sorry for the Jew family deep down. But the Jew family didn't deserve their sympathy. Serves you right. This is what you get by trying to intensify our disputes. Now, look at what happened. You angered a psycho and utterly lost grace because of it. The Jew family, can't they find anything better to do? Someone commented. The others nodded in agreement. You were onlookers and you should have stayed that way. Why would you get involved? Had fun? That fun came at the cost of a family member. On the other hand, the Liu family had to be grateful for the Jew family. At the very least, the Jew family had dug out some hidden information about the store for them. First of all, it seemed that there was a titled battle pet warrior at the peak in the store. Also, this store was a bit strange. You couldn't even determine when the store owner would get angry. Last but not least, because of what the Jew family did, the Liu family could win through another alley. Naturally, the alley was the foolish and unlucky Jew family. In the course of this event, the Jew family did try to drag the Liu family down, for sure. That being said, based on the current situation, the store was a much bigger problem than the Jew family. After all, no one had a complete idea about this store yet. On the other hand, they were very familiar with the Jew family. The enemy of an enemy was a friend. The Jew family had suffered a loss. They would not say no if the Liu family went to propose cooperating with them. Sir, should we continue to prepare what we've been preparing to hinder that store on tomorrow's final? A man asked nervously. He was worried that they would provoke this strange store again. Liu Qianzong raised his eyebrows. Yes, of course. We are not the Jew family. If that person dares to come and attack us, I would make sure that he never makes it back. He sounded confident. Yes. That's right. The Jew family is not like us. I'm actually eager at the prospect of him trying. This is our place. Coming here would spell doom for him. He would accomplish nothing here. Everyone chimed in. Liu Qianzong raised his hand to hush the others. The silence was restored in the conference room. Then, he started another round of discussion about the follow-up arrangement. At the same time, he assigned someone to continue digging out more about the attack on the Jew family. Somehow, he felt there was more to the story. At the Qin family mansion, in a secluded bamboo garden, an elderly man was sitting in the pavilion, sipping tea and resting. "Father, that is all," said a burly middle-aged man sitting by the tea pavilion. He was the Qin family head's son. He was once designated to become the next family head of the Qin family. However, his talent was mediocre. Before the Qin family was passed on to him, his son, Qin Shaotian, was born. His strength had awakened as soon as he came to this world. Later on, he demonstrated great talent in cultivation. Then, he took his father's place and was appointed the next family head of the Qin family. If everything went well, He would take over the Qin family in the future. The middle-aged man was glad that it was his son who had taken over his place. I see. The elderly man sat on the rocking chair and gently waved the cattail leaf fan. He had his eyes closed as he rested comfortably. On the table, the steam from the teacup wafted into his nose. The scent was soothing. I have asked Zhao about the store, but he said little to me. He did warn me, however, not to provoke this store. The elderly man opened his eyes slowly. In all these years, Zhao has never been afraid of someone to a degree that he would rather not leak any information. Stay away from this store. The burly middle-aged man was shocked. Zhao wouldn't reveal secrets about this store to them just because he was afraid he could displease the owner? How strong could that owner be? In a sense, this implied the municipal government was in the know of something, and this secret was terrifying. Besides, in regards to the Zhu family, that person wasn't scared away by them. Rather, he was very close to destroying them entirely and actually forced them to surrender, the elderly man went on. A meaningful look appeared in his eyes. What? The middle-aged man stood up all of a sudden, almost knocking the stone table over. He could not help but shout in astonishment. One person overpowered an entire family. How was that even possible? Of the 5 major families, the Zhu family was the weakest. That being said, they were still a major family. Throughout the years, the Zhu family still managed to maintain its position. They were an impressive force. The elderly man frowned at the impulsive behavior of the middle-aged man. He darted a look at the ripples in the teacup and ordered the middle-aged man, "Sit down." The middle-aged man realized that he was forgetting himself. Embarrassed, he sat down obediently. "Father, is that true? If so, then, this person should be a peak-titled battle pet warrior or even a legendary battle pet warrior, right?" When he approached the end of his sentence, his voice began to tremble. Legendary. In the entire continent, across dozens of base cities, there were merely 2 legendary battle pet warriors. Any legendary battle pet warrior could impact the entire continent. Would someone like that pay a visit to the Longjiang base city and stay in that small store? The middle-aged man was afraid to let his train of thought go further. Do not overthink. Let's just wait for the cat to jump, said the elderly man, and then closed his eyes again. More and more pieces of news came out from the Zhu family, spreading across the major families and other influential forces. All of them were different. As more information got out, the truth became twisted. Some information was exaggerated, some added some twists and turns in the actual course of events, and some people would even give a lively description of the battles, but it all sounded unbelievable and surreal. Only the higher-ups in the major families were aware of the truth. They were still digging for more information because the Zhu family was doing everything they could to prevent the information from getting out. What all the major families were sure of was that the Zhu family had suffered a great loss and the attack was related to that pet store. Anyways, that pet store had been marked as dangerous and strange by people. While at the Pixie Pet Store, Su Ping called Joanna over and told her to accompany him on a trip to the cultivation sites. He had just picked up a new skill for the little skeleton. Joanna was informed and had more extensive knowledge. She could be there as another pair of fresh eyes and analyze the skill for him. Su Ping randomly chose an unpopulated elementary cultivation site that would only cost 1 energy point for the admission. That was an uninhabited and desolate planet. Standing on the ground, Su Ping could see other planets of various sizes nearby and gaze into the vast, starry sky. But Su Ping had no idea which galaxy that was. Joanna looked around. Every time she entered a strange world, she would try her best to sense the aura of her hometown from that vantage point so that she could locate it. Still, as always, this effort would be futile. The cultivation site Su Ping chose seemed to be all across the universe. For the first time in her life, she learned how boundless the universe was outside the central divinity she was from. Su Ping summoned the little skeleton. The little skeleton stood by Su Ping's feet and looked up at him. Su Ping smiled and patted its head. He told the little skeleton to step forward and unleash the legendary skill. The little skeleton nodded. With a flash, the little skeleton reappeared in a point 100 meters in the sky. Joanna took her gaze away from the sky and focused on the little skeleton. She had been in contact with the skeleton many times recently. She could tell that this was not a common skeleton, but one with a noble and rare bloodline. Soon, dark energy emerged from the body of the little skeleton and formed masses of demonic energy. With a low growl, the little skeleton suddenly burst out of a strong gust of flame. Behind the flame, a huge illusionary image of the Skeleton King appeared faintly from midair, overlooking the ground. At the same time, the image of the Skeleton King did what the little skeleton did. They put their hands together and then made a pulling gesture. It was as if they were pulling open an invisible door. The void suddenly collapsed, and an unfathomable crack appeared. In an instant, the light in the surrounding area dimmed down. A cold, undead aura gushed out, and the groan of ghosts and wolves were faintly heard around them. This noise wasn't picked up by the ears but directly felt by the spirit. The crack widened further as space was torn open by the Skeleton King. A large mass of dense black mist suddenly poured out from the inside. While standing next to Su Ping, Joanna was actually frightened. She shouted, "This is the world of the dead demons." Su Ping did not understand. "The what now?" A golden hue enveloped Joanna. She was ready for combat. Out of instinct, she wanted to protect herself. Su Ping told her that her death would not be real while in the cultivation site. But she had never lost her life in a cultivation site before and she wouldn't want to try it. Su Ping was surprised by Joanna's reaction. He didn't expect that the little skeleton's new skill would stress her out. Of course, he himself had noticed something. It seemed that this wasn't a simple skill. The crack was like a portal and behind it was another world. World of the dead demons, Su Ping murmured. He wondered if he could find the name on the list of cultivation sites. At this time, the black mist that emerged from the door of the dead suddenly solidified. Behind the little skeleton, under its feet, the black mist turned into dark monsters exuding a strong demonic aura, some carrying 8 wings on their backs like demon angels, some covered with strange claws and sharp blades, and some were just hideous masses of flesh. Every monster that was transformed from the dark devil mist was exuding an extremely violent aura. Staring at the little skeleton that was standing in front of the crack while surrounded by the monsters, Su Ping suddenly had a feeling that the little skeleton had become their king. The king of the devils. The king of all that was evil and demonic. "Wanna give it a try?" Su Ping asked Joanna. Joanna glared at Su Ping. She was offended by his words. "A try? You just brought me here as a sparring partner." "I knew it. Don't worry. You're strong. Besides, you won't die," Su Ping comforted her. Joanna was grinding her teeth. "So be it. It's just some demons. I shan't be afraid of them." With a cold snort, golden light surged around Joanna and from her palms a dazzling golden glow was condensed, just like lightning, which was quickly solidified, turning into the sharp spear that almost killed Yuan Tianchen. Before she took action, Joanna added proudly, "If I won't die here, then don't blame me for." Su Ping smiled. "Attack," he ordered the little skeleton. The little skeleton tilted its head in confusion but it did obey. The next second, the countless monsters around it began to press forward to attack Joanna. In an instant, a terrifying war broke out on this desolate planet that had been quiet for countless years. The golden light and the evil aura bumped into each other and tore the ground open. The monsters' growls and cries could be heard everywhere. The battle lasted for merely 5 minutes. Joanna penetrated the little skeleton with her spear. The little skeleton turned into a pile of dust and managed to come back to life. However, most of the little skeleton's energy had been drained. With a few more deaths like this, the little skeleton would no longer be able to bring itself back to life. Of course, even when that came to pass, Su Ping would be able to revive the little skeleton since this was a cultivation site. Chapter 309. The Void Bug. Phew! Joanna was panting. The spear she held vanished amid a ray of light. She was staring at the dark energy gradually converging in the void. With the help of the dark energy, the little skeleton was slowly growing back. Her spear contained destructive force. She could not believe that she had failed to end this skeleton's life. Her spear should be able to render ineffective any regeneration skills such as regeneration with a drop of blood that some demons would use. She could kill those demons without the slightest difficulty. However, when it came to the little skeleton, her spear was not able to achieve that. Su Ping stared at the mess in front of him. The battle lasted for merely 5 minutes, but everything looked as if several aircraft bombers had blasted the place. Ruins were scattered everywhere. A combat strength of 16.5 is much higher than that of average legendary battle pet warriors. Still, the little skeleton cannot defeat Joanna. Su Ping darted a look at Joanna. She was at the legendary level as well, but she should be approaching the peak. He couldn't see her combat strength. Whenever he tried casting an identification spell on her, all he could see was some question marks. Given the huge gap between their strengths, Su Ping didn't have the right to see her combat strength score at the moment. Anyways, Su Ping was very happy about how the little skeleton did in this battle. The Gate of the Dead was horrifying. It could open up a path to another world. All the monsters that it summoned were on par with titled battle pet warriors. 2 of the monsters seemed to have surpassed the titled level, but they had yet to reach the legendary level. It was somewhere in between. Su Ping didn't know what the standard of strength the monsters that the little skeleton could summon would be. It would be bad if everything was random. On the other hand, if the strengths of the monsters were related to the strength of the little skeleton, then this would turn out to be a promising skill. Su Ping tried to ask the little skeleton about it. After all, since the little skeleton was the one learning the skill, it should know better than anyone. However, only in battles could the little skeleton demonstrate outstanding thinking. Other than that, the little skeleton would normally show a slow-witted demeanor, even a bit silly. Their communication didn't provide Su Ping with any answers. All of a sudden, he slapped himself on the head. How foolish he was. If he couldn't get the answer by asking questions, then he could let the little skeleton try it a few more times. Wow. He could not believe he didn't think of that before. He and his pet were just as smart. Take some rest. We'll try a few more rounds afterwards, Su Ping said to Joanna. Joanna glared at him with her eyes wide open. He was treating her like free labor. Was he testing the little skeleton or her? No problem. Who cares? Although angry, Joanna would never flinch from a battle. As a female war god who had been able to command wind and cloud in the divinity, she had not earned her name for nothing. Su Ping told the little skeleton his intention at once. Soon, a battle between the god and the dead broke out again. This once serene and deserted planet became full of noise. It was undergoing bouts of destruction that it did not deserve. An hour later, Su Ping had gained a basic understanding of the skill's traits. The monsters summoned from the Gate of the Dead varied in strength. For that, there were 2 reasons. First was the little skeleton's own strength. While the little skeleton was at the peak of its state, the monsters it summoned were usually powerful. The other reason was the randomness. When the little skeleton was at the prime of its state, occasionally 1 or 2 monsters would be weak, at around the 8th rank, or the little skeleton could summon an extremely powerful monster that could be as strong as the little skeleton itself. The skill is a combination of strength and fate. No wonder this is a legendary skill, Su Ping exclaimed to himself. He had a vague idea about the details of the legendary rank, but he knew that this was a rank with a wide range of possibilities. There weren't merely 3 positions in between. The gap between the strongest and the weakest at the legendary rank could be similar to that between a titled battle pet warrior and a first-rank warrior. Or even wider. Joanna was exhausted. She was panting and sweating. "Thank you," Su Ping said with a smile. Joanna turned away from him and snorted. "Should we go on? I will keep going till the very end." As she declared so, the hand holding the spear was trembling. She had squeezed it too strongly. Su Ping shook his head with a smile. He told the little skeleton to retreat, Then he summoned the Inferno Dragon. Su Ping checked the Inferno Dragon status with the newly updated identification spell. Inferno Dragon. Property: Pet of the Dragon family. Rank: the lower position of the 7th rank. Combat Strength: 9.8. Aptitude: above average abilities mastered, Claw of Destruction, Advanced, Sea of Fire, Advanced, Rough Tackle, Middle rank, Dragon Deterrence, Advanced, Golden Roar, Advanced. Inferno Dragonfire, Legendary, and 18 more advanced or middle rank skills of various types. Basically, in terms of combat strength, the Inferno Dragon was at the upper position of the 9th rank, one step away from reaching the peak. In terms of attack skills, the Inferno Dragon was more proficient in AoE skills and those of the defensive type. The Inferno Dragon would perform better in a group fight. In one-on-one battles, the Inferno Dragon still had room to improve. That was why the Inferno Dragon was unable to kill beasts at the upper position of the 9th rank within an instant, unlike the Little Skeleton. The Little Skeleton was most proficient in one-on-one battles. Su Ping pulled up the details for the Inferno Dragonfire. Inferno Dragonfire. Score: 15. Note: legendary skills are rated from 10 to 99. Explanation: summon the Inferno Fire hidden deep in the bloodline. The Inferno Dragonfire has long-lasting combustion and corrosive ability which cannot be healed. Except for a few skills and abilities such as freezing, annihilation, destruction and others, the Inferno Dragonfire is difficult to contain, and can burn away sacred energy, everything except dark energy. It is difficult to burn soil, air, and other materials. Length of automatic combustion: 8 hours. Only after finally reading the introduction did Su Ping have a full understanding of the effects and strength of this pet skill. Given that the Inferno Dragonfire had a long-lasting effect and could inflict burns that could not be cured, the Inferno Dragonfire could be considered terrifying. It was a fire that couldn't be dispelled, much like a virus. However, the score of the Inferno Dragonfire was merely 15, which was unexpected. I don't think the system has given a low score to the Inferno Dragonfire. It's just that the Gate of the Dead is too intimidating. It can work well with the Little Skeleton's regeneration ability. That is to say, before the enemy takes out the Little Skeleton for good, they would have to endure attacks from the monsters the Little Skeleton summons incessantly. Average legendary battle pet warriors would be unable to endure that, Su Ping said to himself. His decision of favoring the Little Skeleton so that it would get the Gate of Dead had enabled it to master the strongest combination skills. What a happy coincidence. Do you want me to test your dragon? Joanna must have rested well because she had an itch to try once she saw the Inferno Dragon. All dragons had a tough defense. But compared to that exceptionally strong skeleton that could never be killed, the Inferno Dragon had become quite an easy target. Oh, such an adorable clay pigeon. No, we're going back. Su Ping looked at her from the corner of his eye. He didn't give her a chance to seek revenge or else the Inferno Dragon would suffer. Both the Inferno Dragon and the Little Skeleton were his children. He couldn't be biased. Joanna snorted. Su Ping waved his hand. The system did his work and the views changed. Soon, they were back in the store. They stayed in the cultivation site for 1 hour but only a moment had passed in the outside world. The girls were still going about their lesson in the training room. Su Ping let them be. He took the pets that were booked for professional training to the demigod burial for Joanna to train while he, the Little Skeleton, the Inferno Dragon, and the Purple Python went to take their baths in the spring. While he was cultivating, Su Ping remembered the void bug he had captured. That was one with a cyan carapace, one of the weaker ones among all of the void bugs. At the moment, that void bug was average in terms of strength and aptitude. The rank was the intermediate position of the 7th rank. The combat strength was 7.8. Similar to his strength. Nothing worth mentioning. The void bug's aptitude was poor. Su Ping had just grabbed one randomly and his goal was to use the void bug to generate divine crystals for him. Back then, He didn't know that he would sponge off a money bag like Joanna, who could ensure the supply of divine crystals. Although he no longer needed the void bug to generate divine crystals for him, he didn't want to cancel the contract and get rid of it. He was very much interested in the special ability and origin of the void bug. He planned on raising one. "Come on, little guy, this is your favorite." Su Ping summoned the void bug and allowed it to swim around in the spring. The void bugs enjoyed eating gods, the main reason being that they could absorb their divine energy, which was rich in that spring. With a splash, the 3-meter, long-horned beetle-like void bug dove in the spring. The void bug moved up and down and soon managed to make itself float on the water. The void bug choked on some water, seemingly a bit uncomfortable. But soon enough, the void bug noticed that it was surrounded by an appealing scent. After sensing the profound divine energy in the spring, the void bug began to chirp happily. Su Ping could sense how glad the void bug was. He said to the void bug, which was swimming around, "Come on, I will teach you the backstroke." The void bug looked puzzled, but soon imitated Su Ping after he demonstrated the move. The huge spring was filled with splashing noises. The pets and Su Ping were enjoying themselves. The Inferno Dragon had put out the fire surrounding it. At the moment, the Inferno Dragon was crouching at a corner with only its head above water. People would mistake it for a crocodile. The purple python merely stuck half of its body inside the spring, leaving the other half outside. Given its sheer size, there would be no room for others if it sunk its whole body. The dark dragon hound was the happiest of all. The void bug dog paddled around with its tongue sticking out. How joyful! The little skeleton sunk to the bottom of the spring and scattered all of its bones to remain motionless. Su Ping had once tried to teach the little skeleton to swim, but it simply couldn't learn. The two servants guarding by the spring looked at the scene speechlessly. They were jealous at the same time. The spring was precious and would usually be sold on the market by the drop. It pained their hearts to see that spring being squandered away by those creatures. Chapter 310, Cyborg Pet. The next day. It was the final selection. Su Ping had to leave the store to drive Su Lingyu to the venue, so he had to leave Joanna behind to be the acting boss. Of course, he merely gave her authorization verbally. It wasn't validated by the system. Her only role was to open the door, receive customers who went to pick up their pets, return the pets, and also act as the cashier. She could also receive some customers who went to have their pets trained. After all, those were the activities an employee should do. It was just that Su Ping had taken on everything by himself. Since Joanna came along, Su Ping was able to leave the store occasionally. The store could keep running. However, he still had to open up the access to the cultivation sites to train the pets himself, and that was the core secret of the store. Soon, Su Ping had driven Su Lingyu to the venue in the uptown area. The venue for the finals was at the King's Zone. The name itself indicated that this wasn't some random zone. The King's Zone was the economic hub for the uptown area and the most prosperous place. It was the most flourishing zone in the base city, other than the first zone where the municipal government was located. In this place, an inch of land was worth an inch of gold. Wealthy people abounded in the King's Zone. If you walked on the streets and randomly grabbed a few people, all of them would turn out to be rich. At the same time, the established controls were strict. Surveillance cameras were set up everywhere. Therefore, riots were a rare occurrence in this place. To be able to win the bid to host the finals, the King's Zone's economy would rise further. There was a large number of congested streets in the King's Zone where traffic jams were commonplace. It was a fact that all the rich had cars, and some had more than one. The civilians who worked and lived there also had petty bourgeois taste and would buy low-grade cars which were affordable for them. Besides, those of a lower social class were more likely to drive cars. They were always eager to drive their cars, even if they were only going grocery shopping at a place 200 meters away from their homes. Adding the participants and the audience visiting the venue, the streets had become fully packed. There are several times more people than yesterday. Su Ping drove the car along a street with less traffic. He shook his head as he looked at the next lane on which the cars were barely moving. More than yesterday? You came here yesterday? Su Lingyu asked in surprise. I toured around the place. Su Ping stepped on the gas to speed up. On the other lane where the traffic was jammed, someone was honking like crazy and some were sticking their heads out of the window to look. Are you going or not? Stop dawdling. Damn it. Is it some female driver stopping her car for no reason again? Honey, why don't we go there? There's no traffic on that lane. That is a designated lane for explorers and higher-ups. We'd be expelled from that lane as soon as we get onto it and our license will be cancelled forever. Seriously? Why can explorers use it? They've done nothing other than killing some beasts out there. Big deal. There. Be patient. Driving along the designated lane, Su Ping soon arrived at the venue. He had to admit that the venue in the uptown area was different. Outside the venue was a huge plaza where crowds had gathered. Many entertainment attractions had also been set up as well, as some high-resolution screens for people outside the venue to enjoy the battles. Su Lingyu had thought that she had seen it all in the previous matches, but at this moment, she suddenly became nervous. She could see densely packed crowds across the plaza. The thought that she would go up to the stage and all those people would see her battles, details and all, filled her with oppressing worries. Su Ping didn't comfort her. She had to learn to adjust her mood. This way. Su Ping showed Su Lingyu to the participants' corridor where there were fewer people. Some advanced battle pet warriors were guarding the access. They seemed young but cruel. They weren't people to be messed with. They checked Su Lingyu's credentials and allowed the two in. Do you know the rules for today? Su Ping asked. Su Lingyu nodded. First is the test to select the top 1,000 directly. The others will be eliminated. Afterward is the actual match. The first round is a challenge match, similar to before. Su Ping nodded. She had done her homework. You must be careful during the test, Su Ping cautioned her. That is the only place where the Liu family is likely to pull off some tricks. The test would not be visible to the audience. It would be professional staff and equipment that would handle the test. That was why some untoward deeds could happen. Su Lingyu suddenly remembered that other than focusing on the matches, she would have to look out for any backstabbing. I understand. I'll be careful. Su Ping nodded to her. Before they went there, he had also given her the lantern he obtained from the Dragon Scale lands to protect her from spiritual attacks. He had a better device for himself and no longer needed the lantern. He would rather let her have it just in case. There was a test room at the end of the corridor. All the participants that came from the corridor would have to go into the room for the test. In their respective branch venues, the participants had tried their best and made it to the top 100 at their venues. However, here in the test room, once they ranked below the first 1,000, they would be directly eliminated. So, for most of them, making it to the top 100 at the branch venue was their most glamorous moment. Authorized personnel only, the guards stopped Su Ping at the door with a tough attitude. Su Ping looked thoughtfully at the room. Su Lingyu could tell what Su Ping was thinking. She didn't want him to make trouble just for her. She flashed a comforting smile. Don't worry. I can handle it. Then, she made a fist to cheer herself up and an adorable look. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. He would rarely see this girl making an adorable face. There was still hope in her. Okay. Be careful and use your dragon right away, Su Ping said. His words caught the guard's attention. Su Lingyu nodded. I will wait for you over there. We will go inside after you come out. Then Su Ping stepped away. After he was some distance away, Su Lingyu took a deep breath and went into the test room. There was a path going downward. The light was dim. Impacted by the environment, Su Lingyu became even more nervous. Stepping along the staircase, at the bottom, she saw some traces of light. Dozens of people were gathered there and they were all young. Most of them were 4 to 5 years older than her, which was around their 20s. Are all of them participants? Su Lingyu reached the back of the line. All of them were queuing in front of a door where an advanced battle pet warrior was standing on guard. Every few minutes, He would tell one person to go in after he received some instructions on his intercom. Everyone was waiting for their turn at the test. Su Lingyu stood at the back of the line. Boom! Not long afterward, she suddenly felt a tremor under her feet, like an earthquake. Many participants were scared. Over a dozen activated their astral shields and energy shields directly. The guard at the door was greatly shaken as well. Astonishment was everyone's shared feeling. Is this from the test? That was a loud noise. My goodness. Not even the shock absorption seal of the room can soften the impact. Who's in there? A freak. I think he is, from the Qin family. Many participants were discussing in a low voice. Standing at the back of the line, Su Lingyu felt scared and pressured. After all, Su Ping had proclaimed her as a would-be champion. Technically speaking, everyone present was her opponent. Yet somehow, at this moment, she felt like she was a lamb standing in the middle of a wolf pack. Everyone around her was superior in rank. I am aggressive, very aggressive, Su Lingyu gave herself a pep talk. Miss, what are you saying? A bulky young man asked Su Lingyu. Startled, she waved her hand at once. Nothing, I said nothing. Soon, those in front of her had finished their tests. It was her turn. Behind her were dozens of more waiting. The guard checked Su Lingyu's credentials and then said indifferently, go ahead. Working up enough courage, Su Lingyu went ahead till she reached an underground battle venue. At the moment, outside the battle venue were many thick cables, over a dozen workers, and a complicated device. In the middle of the venue was a cyborg pet. To mechanize a battle pet was a notion adopted a long time in the past. Compared to traditional battle pets, mechanized battle pets could have their abilities enhanced within a short time regardless of their bloodlines. However, for some special reasons, cyborg battle pets did not become popular. They were only used for military purposes and in special experiments. This cyborg battle pet had intricate structures inside its body. The cyborg battle pet could calculate speed when it attacked, the force inflicted upon it, and its opponent's energy level. With the help of the device, this cyborg battle pet could collect much data about its enemies. In some interstellar exploration, fully mechanized battle pets would be used as mechanized soldiers, specifically for exploring the way in perilous places. This was the first time Su Lingyu had ever seen a cyborg pet. She had seen this contraption in textbooks, but since they were not part of her life, she never paid much attention. Go ahead. Summon your pet and last for 1 minute in there. You can surrender in advance, but that would mean relinquishing your right to participate, said a middle-aged man in a black suit wearing a top hat. A pathway with a blue glow was slowly opened up. Su Lingyu took a deep breath and stepped in. Without further ado, she summoned the Moonfrost Dragon and the Phantom Flame Beast. The workers present were surprised when the Moonfrost Dragon came out. They knew that the girl would pass the test for sure. Begin, a man announced. All the pipes connecting to the cyborg battle pet to transfer energy were unplugged. This cyborg battle pet was a 7th rank pyroelectric tiger, a rare pet with dual attributes. It was one of the more doughty pets amongst all 7th rank pets. Su Lingyu didn't hesitate. She told the Moonfrost Dragon to attack immediately. 10 seconds later, the battle ended. Su Lingyu didn't surrender. The workers stopped it. No kidding. If they didn't stop her, the cyborg battle pet that cost so much to make would have been dismantled.